It started with my car door being unlocked. I always lock it. It's muscle memory. I get out, click the fob, hear the beep. Every time. So when I got in after work one night and saw my glove compartment open and papers scattered everywhere, I knew something was wrong. Nothing was stolen, but the weirdest part was the granola bar in the cup holder. I don't eat granola bars. I convinced myself I must have dropped it, maybe left the door unlocked by accident. I was tired, and it was a cold Tuesday in January. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I just cleaned it up and drove home. I live alone, in a small house on a quiet street outside Minneapolis. It's a tight neighborhood. Retired couples, families, all quiet. At night, the whole block is pitch black, except for the yellow glow of porch lights. I like it that way. The next day, I noticed footprints in the snow in my driveway. Not mine, too. Big. They led from the sidewalk, around the back of my house, and stopped at my bedroom window. Just stopped. Like whoever it was stood there and watched. Then walked away. I don't know how long I stood there looking at them. It felt like my skin was humming. I told myself it was probably just a neighbor kid messing around. But the tracks weren't there the day before, and I don't have any kids living on either side of me. I told my friend Rachel about it that night on the phone. She offered to come stay, but I said no. It felt dumb. Like I was overreacting. Still, I pushed a chair under the doorknob and kept the bedroom light on. That night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to a soft, steady tapping. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. It was coming from the window. Not hard knocks, just a light, deliberate tap. Like fingernails on glass. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared at the curtain, afraid it would move. I don't know how long I lay there. Eventually, it stopped. I stayed up the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked the window. There were faint smudges, like someone had pressed their face against the glass. My stomach turned. I bought a camera that day, just a little motion sensor one from the hardware store. I set it up in the driveway, facing the window. That night, nothing happened. I watched the footage in the morning. Nothing but a squirrel and some headlights passing by. The next night, same thing. Then, on the third night, the camera caught him. At 2:17 a.m., a tall man in a dark hoodie walked into frame. He didn't look at the camera, just stood in my driveway, staring at my bedroom window for over 4 minutes. Then he walked off. He never knocked, never tried the door, just stared. I showed the video to the police. They took a report but said there wasn't much they could do unless he tried to break in or something actually happened. I asked them if I should be worried. The officer gave me a look I won't forget. Somewhere between sympathy and resignation. You're doing the right thing. Just keep your doors locked and your lights on. I started parking in the garage. I installed another camera in the backyard. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom and moved to the couch in the living room with the TV on all night. A week went by. No new footage. No new sounds. Then, on a Friday morning, I got a motion alert from the front camera. It was 4:12 a.m. When I opened the clip. I nearly dropped my phone. The man had come closer this time. He was standing right up against the front window, just inches from the glass. His face was turned slightly, but I could see part of his mouth. He was smiling, not a wide, crazy grin, just a small, calm smile. He didn't move, just stood there for exactly 7 minutes. Then he walked away, again. I called the police again. Same officer came. He watched the footage, nodded slowly, and said he'd increase patrols. That was it. Rachel came to stay with me the next night. We drank wine, tried to laugh it off, but we kept the lights on and took turns dozing on the couch. I didn't tell her, but all night I was staring at the front window, waiting for that smile to reappear. Nothing happened. She left the next afternoon. I begged her to stay longer, but she had work, promised to check in every few hours. That night, I double-locked every door, left every light on. Kept my phone in my hand, heart pounding at every creak and wind gust. At 2:03 a.m., the power went out. My house went pitch black. The kind of black that feels thick, like it's pressing in on you. I didn't move. Didn't make a sound. I just sat there on the couch, clutching my phone, watching the hallway. I don't know how long I sat there. Then, I heard it. Tap, 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 coming from the back window this time, the one in the kitchen. Slow, patient taps, closer than before. I didn't look. I didn't want to see the smile again. The power came back at 3:11 a.m. The taps had stopped. I checked the cameras. All of them had gone dark during the outage. Except one. The backyard camera. It was still recording, still plugged into the backup battery. The clip started at 2:05 a.m. The man appears from the side of the yard. No flashlight. No hesitation. He walks up to the kitchen window and just stands there. He taps gently. Then he leans forward and whispers something I can't hear. But I watched it again and again, and I swear I can read his lips. I know you're awake. I haven't slept since. I was 22 and broke when it happened. I'd just graduated college and taken a job in a city I barely knew. The money was terrible, but I couldn't afford to say no. My apartment wasn't ready yet, so my company paid for a cheap extended stay motel while I got settled. It was just for 2 weeks. The place wasn't awful. Outdated, yeah. Flickering hallway lights, scratchy sheets, and that weird industrial carpet smell. But it was quiet. Only 2 floors. I stayed in room 209. The first couple nights were uneventful. I came home, ate sad microwave dinners, and watched TV until I fell asleep. But around the 3rd night, I started noticing something strange. Every time I left for work in the morning, I'd pass the room across the hall, room 210, and every time the door was open. Just an inch or two, like someone had cracked it to watch. I never saw anyone come or go, never heard a TV or movement inside, just that slightly open door. Always. At first, I assumed someone was just forgetful. But it kept happening. 5 days. In a row, that door was cracked open. I even knocked once, just to check if someone needed help. No answer. I pushed the door gently, but it stopped like something was behind it. Still, no sound. That night, I mentioned it to the front desk clerk, an older guy named Dale who wore the same stained vest every day. He just shrugged. Probably one of the long-timers. They keep to themselves. Long-timers? Apparently some people actually lived in the motel full-time. Dale didn't know much about the person in 210, just that they paid in cash and never asked for room service. The next night, things got worse. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of faint scratching, like fingernails on wood. I thought it was coming from the wall behind my headboard. I turned off the TV and held my breath. Scratch. Scratch. Pause. Scratch. I got up and pressed my ear to the wall. Definitely coming from room 210. It wasn't loud, but it was steady, like someone slowly dragging their nails across the drywall. I barely slept. The next morning, I opened my door to head to work and froze. The door to 210 was wide open. Inside, it was completely dark. I couldn't see anything past the threshold, just blackness. I stood there for a second, waiting for someone to appear. Nothing. Then I noticed something on the floor just inside the room. Scratches. Dozens of overlapping gouges on the wood laminate, like someone had dragged something sharp back and forth, in one place. I backed away and went straight to the lobby. Dale wasn't there, just a girl in her 20s playing on her phone. I told her about the door being wide open. She blinked like I'd interrupted a dream. No one's checked into that room this week. I stared at her. I've been seeing that door open every day. She frowned. Pulled something up on her screen. Room 210's been vacant since June. It was September. I asked her to check again. She didn't look happy about it, but after a few minutes, she finally said, "Maybe someone forgot to update the system. I'll send maintenance." When I got back that evening, the door was closed. Locked. I wanted to believe it was just some clerical mistake, that some weird guest had been squatting there and they'd handled it. But that night, the scratching came back. Louder. This time it sounded like it was coming from my side of the wall. Scratch, scratch, thump. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and walked into the hallway. Room 210 was dark and silent. But when I looked down, something was lying in front of the door. A small strip of yellow paper. I picked it up. It was a torn motel sticky note. One word written in shaky black ink. Don't. No explanation. No punctuation. Just that single word. I didn't sleep at all. I sat upright in the bed with every light on, holding the motel's flimsy plastic ice bucket like a weapon. The next morning, I asked to be moved to another room. They gave me 112 downstairs. That night, around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just one text. I miss the sounds you make. I didn't respond. I didn't move. Just stared at the screen, heart slamming against my ribs. 30 seconds later, another message. Room 209 was better. I packed up and left that night. I didn't even ask for a refund. I drove across town and checked into a Holiday Inn. Didn't sleep much there either, but at least it felt clean. Safe. I called the police the next day, but they just took a statement and said they'd look into it. Nothing ever came of it. A few weeks later, I passed by the motel on the way home from work. Room 210's door was open again, just a crack. I used to go hiking every weekend. I live in Oregon, near the edge of Mount Hood National Forest, and the trails there are beautiful. Dense trees, quiet lakes, and barely anyone around if you start early enough. I hiked alone most of the time. It was my therapy. One Saturday last fall, I left before sunrise and parked at a small pull-off I'd used before. It wasn't an official lot, just a wide gravel patch off the road. The trail was about 6 miles out and back, ending at a ridge with a view of the valley. Not many people knew about it. That's what I liked. When I arrived, I noticed another car already parked, a dark green Subaru Outback, old but clean. I didn't think much of it. I strapped on my pack, locked my car, and started the hike. The woods were still heavy with fog. The only sounds were my boots on the trail and the occasional bird. I walked slow, enjoying the stillness. It was about an hour in when I saw him, just up ahead, standing in the middle of the path. A man. He looked like a regular hiker, cargo pants, flannel shirt, and a black baseball cap, but he wasn't moving. Just standing there, facing me. I slowed down, gave a polite wave. Morning. He didn't respond. He just turned around slowly and kept walking up the trail. I laughed it off. Some people are just weird. Maybe he was deep in thought or hard of hearing. I kept my pace behind him, but something about it unsettled me. He never looked back, never stopped to take in the view or adjust his gear. Just walked in a steady, stiff rhythm. I figured I'd pass him eventually. But every time I rounded a bend, he'd be just ahead, same distance, like he was matching my pace perfectly. About 2 miles in, the trail splits, a loop that curves left toward the overlook and right down toward the creek. He took the left and I went right, deciding to brake. The pattern. I figured I'd meet back up at the ridge anyway, but when I reached the overlook 20 minutes later, he wasn't there. I sat down, drank some water, and waited. After a while, I figured he must have kept walking or turned back. I stayed another half hour, then started heading down. I didn't see him again on the trail, but when I got back to the road, his Subaru was still there, and now, my car door was open, my stomach dropped. I always lock my car. Always. But the driver's side door was cracked, and when I looked inside, the glove box was open. Nothing missing, but all my papers were messed up. Insurance, registration, an old pack of gum dumped on the floor. Like someone had been searching for something specific. I backed away and looked around. The road was empty. The forest was silent. Didn't even bother checking the Subaru. I got in my car and drove home as fast as I could. That should have been the end of it. But 2 nights later, around midnight, someone knocked on my front door. 3 soft, precise knocks. I live alone. My driveway has motion lights. They didn't go off. I stood in the hallway, frozen, listening. Another knock. I crept to the peephole and looked out. No one was there. The porch was empty. But when I turned on the light, I saw something tucked under. The doormat. A piece of paper. It was my hiking trail map, creased and torn, and one word was written across it in black marker. Lost? I slammed the door, locked everything, and sat with a knife in my hand until morning. I reported it to the police. They sent someone to take a statement, but like before, there wasn't much they could do. Could be a prank, the officer said. Probably someone who saw you on the trail. That didn't help. I stopped hiking for a while. Weeks went by. Nothing happened. Then, one evening in December, I went out to my car after work. It was dark already, freezing cold. As I got in, I noticed something hanging from my rearview mirror, a black baseball cap, just dangling there like a charm. I jumped out of the car and nearly slipped on the ice. My hands were shaking as I called 911. The police took it, ran prints, but said the snow likely ruined any evidence. Again, I was told it was probably a random act. Nothing to go on, but I knew. It was him, the hiker. After that, I installed cameras around my house, changed my locks. I even considered moving, but didn't. Have the money. I just tried to live around the fear, tried to forget. But 2 weeks ago I went hiking again. Stupid, I know. I picked a trail on the other side of the state, a popular one with lots of families and joggers. I thought I was being careful. About a mile in, I stopped to drink water, looked around, and froze. On a tree trunk, at eye level, was a small strip of white duct tape, and written on it, in black marker, was that same word. Lost?